and gentlemen, and welcome to Focus on Liberia. This is our special program we call Between the Headlines. My name is Dennis Jai, and we are broadcasting from Atlanta, Georgia. In tonight's edition of Between the Headlines, we're going to be looking at the educational sector in Liberia, the prospects, the opportunities, and the challenges, and specifically, we are going to be looking at the education sector plan 2023 to 2027. With me to do this, I have my co-host, Jackie Sayegh. Jackie, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Dennis. I'm glad to be here.
And we are glad to have the Deputy Minister for Administration at the Ministry of Education in Liberia, the Honorable Latim Da-thong. Mr. Minister, welcome to our show.
Thanks for having me.
We are very happy to have you. Da-thong is the Deputy Minister of Education for Administration. He has, just like many of us, he's been working in the United States and returned to Liberia to contribute. And just like me, my dream job is to become superintendent of Sayegh County. Jackie knows that very well. So I'm looking forward to those days that I can return as well. He's also the founder of Star University, and he's going to talk more about that. Datum, we are very happy to have you. This is your first time on Focus on Liberia, so on behalf of the crew, we say welcome. Have a bottle of water.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. I'm a big fan of the show.
Thank you so much. Let's, I said a little thing about you, but I just want to give you time to talk to our audience and kind of add a little more, introducing yourself to our audience, sir.
Thank you. Thank you. In short, my name is Latim Da-thong. I'm the Deputy Minister for Administration, the Ministry of Education, Republic of Liberia. A Liberian, mother Liberian, father a naturalized Liberian. I grew up in Liberia, went to school. Like every other Liberian, started from Carrie Baptist and then move on. I finished high school in Ghana. I attended Ghana National College, graduated, and then I moved to the U.S. I spent most of my life in North Carolina. Started out in Atlanta. I was in Lawrenceville. Then moved downwards to North Carolina, where I spent about 15 years. I went to school in North Carolina. I attended Shaw University, got a bachelor's degree. Then I went on. I got a master's degree, got my professional licensing from the University of North Carolina, A&T. Then I went back into teaching because that's what I enjoy doing. Education has been my passion my whole life. So I started teaching at Middle Creek High School in North Carolina. I taught there for about 7 years. And then I went back to my alma mater where I did my undergrad, Shaw University. And I also taught at the university for some time. Around that time, my passion to come home and help, just knowing the gaps that was in the education sector and the kind of help I thought I could provide. By 2006, I moved back home. And that's when I started what has become the third largest university in Liberia, Stars University, where I served as president for 10 years. During that time, I consulted with the Ministry of Education. I worked as an advisor to the then Minister of Education at the time, Dr. Otello Gonga. And then I worked with several other ministers until the elections and President George Weah called and asked me to serve. And that's what I'm doing now. And I have the same passion I had 20 years ago doing this today. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Jackie?
Yeah, well, we're really glad to have the minister here. And as Dennis earlier said, we're going to be talking about the education sector plan and about some challenges that the Liberian nation faces when it comes to education. So, Dennis, do you want to start the ball or should I?
Yeah, let me start, by generally, and for me, unlike you, went to Calvary Baptist, I was all the way beyond God's back in Sayegh County. So how the school business is, in the country, especially in the interior, somebody may ask, how the school system, what would you say?
I would characterize this system as progressing. Obviously, we all know there are many challenges. I can't sit here and tell you that the Liberian education system is where that it needs to be, and I will be telling a bull-faced lie. What I can tell you is, in the last 6 years, we've made some significant progress in all areas, and we'll talk about the details later. But one of our biggest challenges is how far back we were. I think after the war, and then the two Ebola and COVID had massive effect on the Liberian education system. But between 2018 and now, we've made some serious progress. You can see that now in even some of the things we are doing, and we'll talk about that later on. But I think it's a work in progress. It's still a lot of work needs to be done. It's a work that we all have to do collectively. I'm a firm believer that those of us carrying the title are just carrying the title, but all of us, I know just meeting Jackie, I'm happy to meet her. I'm sure we'll meet in person, and other Liberians who are in education. All of us have to work together to make the system better. It's not a one person's job. No one person can change the system. Everybody needs, it's a hands-on approach. Collectively, all of us will work together from private sector, public sector, and try to change the system. But it's making progress, but there are a lot of challenges here, and we'll talk about those challenges and how we can solve them.
Thank you. Before I switch it over to Jackie, what exactly do you do as a Deputy Minister for Administration, just so that our viewers can come up to speed?
The Minister of Education, it is the political head of the institution. The Deputy Minister for Administration runs the day-to-day of the ministry. My job pretty much is to run the entire operations of the ministry. So I have finance is under me. So I am in charge of finance in terms of implementation of budgetary allotments for education. I'm in charge of HR, hiring teachers, firing teachers, retiring teachers, death benefits, anything to do with HR falls under me. Anything to do with general administration falls under me. Everything to do with logistics and operations and finance falls under me. So my job literally is to run the day-to-day operations of the ministry, whilst the minister is the political head, who is the visionary, who steers the ship, but the day-to-day work is the DMA.
Jackie?
Okay, thank you. Wow, that's a lot for one person. Sitting here listening to you, I don't envy your job. I guess my question will mainly focus on the education sector plan.
Yeah.
A lot of people
Okay.
were shocked when Minister Soni said that Liberia needs $1 billion for the overhaul of the educational system. Reading the education sector plan, I realized it comes from this $975 million that is listed in there. But I want to just take an overview of the sector plan, because this is not easy reading, and I started last night and I'm still not finished with chapter 4. So and I will be reading some of it because it's just a lot to digest. So the education sector plan, it points to a new understanding of old problems. I'm reading and review new challenges. And it's trying to meet up with the SDG number 4, which is quality education. And you have this overarching, you have these goals that the ESP will try to achieve. And so I just want to go, it's a 5-year plan, right? From 2022, 23, and then it goes to 2027, I think. Yeah, 27. Yes. So the first goal is to increase equitable access. Yes. And in one of the bullet points underneath is about you have to reduce the overage student population, starting at the elementary level through the following actions. And one of them that caught my eye was, and I would just like clarity, so I will read it. It was abolish repetition at the ECE, that's the elementary childhood education, and lower basic levels through automatic promotion. I didn't understand that you are abolishing repetition and then you are giving them automatic promotion. Now we were talking about education right before we came on, and when you get a lot of red marks, you fail, and then they beat you. So are you abolishing? I mean, are you just passing them? What is this automatic promotion?
Okay. Before I answer the question direct, I think it would be proper for me to just guide you through how we came up with this plan. I think it's important for you and the audience.
Okay.
So when we took office in 2018, they had developed a 5-year plan. Many nations do 5-year plans. When we took over the plan that was done by Madam Salif and her team, it was in its 3rd year. It was the Getting the Best plan under George Warner, who was minister at the time. So we completed that plan. And then in the last year of that plan, we had to develop a new plan for the next 5 years. A very tedious process. Fortunately, I think I know the almost 90% of that in my head because we had to develop that. But it's a plan where you sit down with all stakeholders, Liberians who are invested in education, our international partners, UNICEF, the World Bank, UNESCO, all of us together developed the plan that you have. Before that plan, we did a diagnostic review of the entire sector. It's this, you don't have this, but I'll send you a copy. It's called the Education Sector Analysis. So the
Yeah.
sector analysis did a full review of the system, and it's out of the analysis that the plan was developed. So the education sector analysis we did that for about 7 months, and then out of that, I did the plan. The plan was then validated last year at the United Nations. This gone November, our education plan was taken to the UN, and it was validated there. So now this is our working tool. Anybody interested in education in Liberia, this is the tool we'll be using for the next 5 years. We have several problems. At the ECE level, which is the early childhood, we're talking about kindergarten and those ones that are not really doing grades right now. A, B, red marks, all of that. That's not the group yet until you start getting to grade level. One of the problems we have is overage. And the second one we have, when we talk about increasing equitable access, as you pointed out correctly, there are 2 key areas that we are very concerned about: the overage and the out-of-school kids. As we speak, we have about 200,000 kids that should be in school that are not in school, around that number, that are supposed to be going to school. Some of them are out on a farm. Some of them are digging gold. There are so many, and you know Liberia, so many different things that are happening, and some of our kids are not in school. Then the problem of overage, where you have a kid that is 12 years old in 2nd grade or in 1st grade. That is a problem, and the way we are trying to fix it is, one, when we say no repetition, the young kids that are in early childhood should be carried along, because we have a fundamental problem of access. So if a child stays in a class more than the time they're supposed to be there, they are going to actually be preventing other students from coming in the system. We have few schools and we cannot cater for the population. And that's a very critical thing. So how we effectively move them along, take the older kids that are in classes they are not supposed to be. We are working with USAID now to develop alternative learning programs, ALPs, to bring them up to the level and then put them in the actual grade level. Whilst we have about 1.4 million kids in school right now. I think you saw it in there. But we will have close to 2 million kids by 2030. There's another 480 plus thousand that are coming in within the next 7 years. So the challenge we have now is to be able to cater for those kids that are in school and also for those that are coming. So we are talking mostly about the ECE kindergarten levels where kids are moved along, not at the grade level. At the grade level, if you're not passing, you're not moving forward. But at the ECE level, we want children to move on effectively. There are many things that contributes to them moving on, and we will talk about some of those. So it is not at the grade level where we're saying good or bad, just push them to the next grade. That's not what we're doing. In fact, what we have done since we took over, when we came in, there was only the 9th grade national exam and 12th grade national exam. So now we've put in a national exam at every 3 levels. So now we have the 3rd grade exam, the 6th grade exam, 9th grade exam, and 12th grade exam. So at every 3 levels now, we are testing the kids nationally to see where they are before we move them. If you wait for a kid to get to 9th grade, a child gets to 9th grade, before you start to detect deficiencies, it might already be too late to try to help them. I'm sure, Jackie, you know that you're an educator. So now we put in a national exam at every 3 levels so that we detect problems early. Those deficiencies they have, we try to work on it before the test again at 6, 9, 12 level, so we can fix some of the problems along the way.
You mentioned a couple of things, and Jackie, if you don't mind, let me get
Yes.
this exam level you're talking about, and we can have a whole show about just the testing, right?
Yes.
Is it a national exam, or is it something that we've developed locally, or is it the one WASI across West Africa?
It's a national exam. WASI is an international exam. So the WAS is the international exam that all West African countries take. We have our national exam. So
Okay.
our national exam is what we develop here nationally, but that exam is also administered by WAEC. So WAEC Liberia has developed tests at every 3 levels, and we do that. That result is our national baseline, our test. We don't share it with the rest of the other countries that do the WASI.
Okay.
So that's our exam.
The next thing you mentioned was access problem. You said in Liberia we have a problem of access. Can you explain that a little bit? Because
go ahead.
Yeah,
Finish
because
the question.
I thought like in my hometown the building is there, but nobody's in it because they're all digging gold. So just what I wanted you to say a little more about the access issue.
And the access is not just that we don't have schools. No, as I said earlier on, some of our kids are deprived from having access, and they are for different reasons. So, and part of what we do in the ministry is we go all through the counties, we meet with local leaders, we meet with chiefs, podios, and all of those people, and we talk to them. Some of the kids go to the young people go on the farm all day. They are denied access. Not that they might not have a school building, it's just that the parents and other people in that town believes going to the farm is a better alternative. Some of the young people go to the gold mines. They spend the whole week, 2 weeks at the gold mine digging gold, because the goal is how do I feed the family? This is a quicker, shorter method of making money and not waiting the long term of going to school. So there are challenges. There are places where you do have school, and as you said, where the kids are not going because they are involved in other things that they shouldn't be involved in. But there are also places where we don't have access to the actual facilities, and we are also working on that as we speak.
Thank you. Jackie, I just wanted to get the clarity.
Okay, Mr. Minister, I want to come back to the various goals. As you said, you know this by heart because you were the one who helped to put
Yeah.
this together. So one of the goals we have is also develop and roll out a system for teacher licensing, right? Because even when you
Good.
say that,
Yes.
like they say that in 2030 there will be Liberia will have 6.4 million population, right? And most of them will be young people. And so besides access, we have a shortage of trained teachers. And looking at this, you're saying that you're going to develop and roll out a system for teacher licensing. I guess my question was, So, and then you're going to roll out the National School Quality Standard System. And then I made an aside because I had all the innovations for poverty action, and you guys at the Ministry of Education are developing Liberia's first national learning assessment system for the primary learning level, from content-based to competency-based curriculum, which is very good. But my question is, are you saying that when you say develop and roll out a system for teacher licensing, but there's one, when you say develop, you mean enhance? There's one that was there, right? I mean, you guys are developing one, or there was one before this?
There's never been one before. There's never been one before. The teacher's licensing is, yeah, we've never licensed our teachers before.
Okay.
We've never licensed our teachers before. So maybe in the 40s, 50s, or 60s, but I wasn't born then. But in our time, in my lifetime, and I'm almost 50 years old, we have not developed, we have not had one. So what we've done is we truly believe, I've been a teacher almost all my life, and we truly believe that professionalizing the teaching field in Liberia is critical. Like nurses have license, lawyers have license. We are now developing a system where teachers will have license. The first 1,000 teachers will get license this year. I'm happy to announce to you that we are far advanced in the setup. We have set up the Center of Excellence. The policy for teacher licenses have been completed. It has been validated by our international partners. The rollout should be somewhere in July, where going forward, when you're teaching in the Liberian school system, you must be a licensed teacher. As we speak, I don't have the number totally in my head, but if you have, we have around 60,000, and I think 60,100 plus teachers in our entire school system. Out of that 60,000, 27,000 of those are public school teachers, and the rest are private school teachers. But collectively, we have about 60,000 teachers in the system. It is time now we license them. When we license them, it does several things. One, many teachers want to see the profession as something that is dignified. Mm-hmm. We also believe that if we license them, we will hold them to a standard, that if that standard is abused, we can revoke the license and that person not teach in our system. It will make it things like bribery or sexual abuse of students, all the kind of things that we don't want to see. When we professionalize the education sector, we believe we can curb them or we can monitor them better. So this year will be the first time that we ever license teachers in the Republic. It's way overdue, but at least we're about to start.
And Mr. Minister, I mean, will it be retroactive? How about those who are working now without license?
So those teachers who've been working for long will go through a different process. We have the grandfather's clause in there that will protect those people who've been in the system, and they won't have to take a regular test like the new teachers coming in. We took all of those into consideration. So the grandfather clause will cover them. They will do some refreshers, and then they will be licensed. Those teachers that are older.
Okay. Okay, I think that's a good thing. So that another one that that's one of the goals is about WASH and an enabling environment for students. Yeah. Yes. So you're talking about bathrooms, especially for young girls who are in school and things like that. UNICEF, when UNICEF in 2016, which was a while ago, but in their survey of urban and public rural schools, rural and urban and rural public schools, they said that out of the 2,581 schools that had no electricity, 2,581 had no electricity and 146 had electricity. I know that's 2016, so I'm sure it has dropped. But when you talk about the fact that we're doing TVET, right? We're doing all of these things. We are trying to have competency-based curriculum. We're trying to bring IT in. What is the government doing with this ICT infrastructure? Is it being put into place? We will always say Montserrado County, but about the other counties, what's being done about those places?
ICT infrastructure?
Yeah.
Specifically? Oh, okay.
Yeah, yeah.
So most of what we will do, or the things that we will accomplish, will heavily depend on the internet.
Okay.
Many of the things that so it is part of. We are also working with several organizations to help expand our internet access to places that we don't have it. We've been engaged with some organizations that are helping to provide solar power, because once you have power in places, then it's easier to get internet. Um, we've reached out to several foundations, the ACAM Foundation and others. So we are working on ways, and with the government to ensure that internet reaches the four corners of Liberia.
Okay.
Once that happens, a lot of the services we will deliver, or we can deliver, will be easier. One of the things we are doing now is setting up digital platforms for our students to do the mock exams before actually writing the international exam. So we are working with the GSMs and others, so that if I'm a student like this SATs or the GRE, if I had a platform, I can practice past questions and over and over and until I get them correct, know why this is right or wrong. Before I enter the actual examination room, I will be well prepared for the exam. This year, we are rolling that out in 5 counties, only because those are the counties that have accessible internet. So we are working with our international partners to ensure that those areas where the GSMs are not reaching, we can have satellite connectivity in the schools in the rural areas. We are also working with a project now. We are working on a project. It's called Education on Wheels. We've pitched the idea to the World Bank. They like it, where you would develop we'll develop big buses that we have internet facility, computer labs on them. You can drive them into the rural villages, park them, and then students can learn, so that we can cater for the rural areas as well. The bank is very receptive to that idea, and we are working now so that the next phase of the RISE project, the World Bank gave us 50 million to improve secondary school. The RISE project is what we've been using to. As of to date, we have renovated all public high schools in the Republic of Liberia. And the last time this was done was in the 1960s. Today, all public high schools across the nation have been renovated. High schools, public high schools. We have 200 public high schools. All of them across the country have been renovated, thanks to the World Bank for providing not a loan, but a grant. And that grant has been used. So we are working on those kind of things to ensure that the people in the rural areas, which is our biggest concern, even teachers, what's happening now is we are now developing under that same, I think it's goal number 2 that you just read. Under goal number 2, we talk about increasing quality and relevance when it comes to providing education. Goal number 2, if I'm specific.
Yes.
Yeah, again, the thing is stuck in my head.
You know it well.
So part of that is how do we incentivize? Nowadays, we are now starting to build teacher housing. It's difficult even to get teachers in the rural area. Everybody want to be in Monrovia. But if we are able to put housing and other incentives, we can now get teachers to go back in the counties they are from, stay there and help build the education systems in the counties. And so we are looking at other incentives we can put in place to encourage our teachers to go back to Sino, to Grand Gila, to Lofa, other places, and stay there and help build teach and build the sector in their own counties.
Yeah, in one of your tables in the composition of the teaching staff, when you come to principal headmasters, a female there are only 88, and then the male there are 402, and you
Yes.
have a note here that says that the dominance is partly due to the pay gap between males and females, because the latter having 6% and 11% lower salaries. Why is there a pay gap between men and women principals?
For the public school sects, for public schools, that's not the case. All salaries are even across. We realize many of this problem is in the private schools, where private schools are paying the male principals more than they're paying the females. Those are some of the things that we need to correct. It shouldn't be that way.
To be punished because equity, I mean, that's against the law. You know, public schools, I mean, private schools cannot do that. Shouldn't they be held to the same standards?
Yes,
yeah.
yes, and that's what we actively.
That should be one of your things. That is very, very wrong. You know, the World Economic Forum, they said that it will take 2033 before women will have pay equity like men. And this is a stark example of they should not be doing this. They should not be doing this. But that's one of the reasons that women don't want to go into teaching, right? Right?
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're correct.
So, Minister, you were talking about public high schools. They said 200 in the country. I don't know if this is correct, but what I learned is in Monrovia alone, there has not been any new public high school for 40 years now, because we see this proliferation of private schools all over the place. And how is the expansion or the building of new public high school throughout the country if there has not been one new one in the Monrovia area for 40 years? I can just imagine how it is throughout the country.
That's what I just said. That's what I said to you. I think those people interested in the sector will really appreciate what we've done in a short period of time. And I say this not as a politician, as strictly an educator, because I always say education is everybody's business. It should never be politicized. We should try to keep it, because every Liberian is a stakeholder when it comes to education, regardless of who's president or not. All our children need to be served. We are building schools as we speak. I don't know if you follow me on Facebook, but just the last week I was going through the country, inspecting schools. Yes, we've not built schools for long, but as we speak now, we are building around 25 new schools. I was in Nima County. We are building a STEM high school there, science, STEM, science, technology, math, engineering. I can share some of the pictures with you later. We are building a STEM high school in Bon County. We are building a STEM high school in Mount Gibeah. As we speak, construction is going on. So yes, it's been a while that we've not built schools across the country, but at least now, again, I would be remiss if I don't say thank you to the World Bank and the Global Partnership for Education, who has provided the funding that we are using to start building new schools around the country.
As we are talking about the ICT project throughout the country, I'm thinking about where I first went to school, right? Because that is very beautiful, but it appears to me that that is not the issue that people in my hometown are facing. I was talking to someone from there today, and this is where I went to school, solid school. When I got to Monrovia, I didn't have an equal because of the quality education I received. As of today, the teachers that taught me, some died, some are being retired without being replaced. And so the schools in my town, one of the best schools in the country, now run from 8 a.m. to 10 because they have only 3 teachers. So most of the time, the teachers that have been retired have not been replaced. What is this process of this retirement? Because some as young as 50, 55 years old were retired and they have not been replaced. How does that process work?
Okay, it's an extensive process, and as I said earlier on, this is directly my responsibility as the Deputy Minister for Administration. Um, we have around 27,000 teachers that are in our public schools now. Out of that 27,000, we have about 13 to 14,000 that are on payroll. If I'm quoting correctly, during the time the ESP was developed, I think it was around 13,000. It has increased a little bit. So we have about 14,000 of those on payroll. So about 12,000 are still volunteers. What we have done over time is, because of the limited physical space based on what we get in our national budget, we have over time slowly, incrementally put people on the payroll. When we took over, there was about 8,000 teachers on payroll. We added an additional 4,000 teachers on payroll, and we'll continue doing that. We wrote the civil service. We developed a policy and sent it to the civil service that was accepted, and also accepted by the cabinet, stating that the retirement age for teachers should be extended, because the older a teacher, the more experienced he is, we need them. It's not like other areas. So teachers are allowed to stay in the classroom up to 65, even up to 70 years old now. Especially in the sciences, physics, biology, and chemistry, so civil service has now agreed that for specific teachers in specific teaching areas, we will now retire them early, which is some good news for us, because when you retire some of these veterans, we need to replace them. And education, the more experience you have, the better you are. So that's one of the things we've changed. The regular civil servant will retire at age, I think 60 now or so, but teachers will be allowed to go a little longer whilst we are developing. As we speak, we've sent over 400 teachers outside of the country to go and study different specialized areas, many of whom will be returning this year. We did that when we came in early. TVET teachers, ICT teachers, different areas, because when they come back, we are going to take most of these experienced teachers that are coming back to go to the TTIs and serve as teacher trainers to then help train more teachers locally. We've also renovated all of the TTIs. And when you visit Jackie this year, please contact me. I will give you a tour if you have the time. We've renovated all the teacher training institutes. When I say TTI, for those who don't know what those are our teacher training institutes that train teachers. So we've renovated all of the TTIs, and now our professionals that are coming back will also do TOTs, training of our teachers. And through that process, but we specifically write the civil service for certain teachers and tell them not to retire them, because if you retire them, we'll have serious gaps, and the government is honoring that.
Right. That's happening in my town right now. There's
Okay.
serious gaps. But you also mentioned the budget. I know you've made reference to the World Bank and other institutions that have been able to fund the educational sector. But what I see in the budget, in the national budget, comparatively, is very small. I'm curious how you come up with that. Is it that you've been able to do this analysis and present to the central government, this is what it's going to cost this year to run it, or you just put something there that or what they're able to give you, because it's very small. I don't know how you do that.
And Mr. Minister, I would like to jump on Dennis's question when he's done, before you answer.
Yeah, go ahead, Jackie.
Okay, so financing this overhaul of the educational sector, and the 1 billion that Minister Soni is asking the government to provide. So something that really in chapter 4, I think that financing the ESP.
Yes.
It says so it says, given Liberia's economic recovery, I'm reading now, since the COVID pandemic, a more optimistic estimation was adopted. Now, based on the IMF projections, steady growth in national wealth, that's in Liberia, will reach 5.7% by 2026. The Ministry of Education will also remain in close dialogue with the Ministry of Finance and Development Planning to continually validate the macroeconomic framework, right? Because the share of domestic revenue, as it grows steadily to reach 18% from today's 14%, right? Some of that growing share of government expenditure will be allocated to education and training. Now, I guess Liberia's commitment to increase domestic financing for education over the 5-year period. Okay, I guess my question is, if this money, so some of the money that's coming to overhaul the system will come from this anticipated growth. So is that okay? The Liberian government, they will see the GDP will go up. They will see some good money coming, or an increase in the growth. And the Ministry of Education must be working with the Ministry of Finance to make sure some of that money goes to education. Who's going to be the person to be going there and checking? Because they say a continual dialogue. So that means that not just one time. So are you going to be responsible? Who's going to be responsible for that?
So thank you for both the questions, and this is a very sensitive area. So let me approach it with that in mind.
Yes. Sorry.
Across the spectrum, Liberia has not yet committed the kind of resources. As I said, I'm not talking about government. I'm just talking as a professional person, because that's how I view myself. I'm a technocrat. I'm doing a job for my country. We've not invested the kind of resources we need to invest in education, and not just this government. I'm talking about for the last 70, 80 years. When you look at our current budgetary allotments for education, UNESCO and the international community is saying, look, countries should have at least 20% of their budgets in education. Many of our counterparts are at 20% or more. Sierra Leone is around 22%. Ghana, other countries are above 20%. We are still hovering around 13.8, 14%. And that is around 2.5, 2.6% of our GDP. That is very small. Liberia, the type of work that is required to bring Liberia education system on par with other countries requires serious investment. Now, it is not intentional by any government to not provide the kind of funding for education. But the national envelope is small. Our national budget is small. There are competing priorities. So we ourselves know previous governments, I might be sitting here next year by this time, or it might be a different government. Whoever takes this role after election, if it's us continuing or if it's a new team, we have to start looking at alternative ways of financing education. We have to start developing new strategies for resource mobilization. Government alone will not be able to fund education where Liberia needs it. And that's just the fact. That's anybody that becomes president of Liberia tomorrow still cannot provide the kind of funding we need. That is why this conversation is important. Just today, I met with a lot of philanthropists who came in country from Iceland, Finland, billionaires who are looking for reasons to invest in education. And I met with them and I tried to convince them why they should invest in the Liberian education sector. So these are some of the ideas we need to start playing with. All Liberians, we need to collectively look at education and say, look, government will give us this. Our traditional partners will give us that. What are new financing mechanisms we can find or sources that can fill in those gaps that government and our traditional partners? Our traditional partners is the USAID, the World Bank, and those kind of people. So we are playing with ideas now that we are talking, we are having national dialogues, shows like this, talking to you people in the diaspora. I will be interested to hear from people like Jackie and others. We should continue to have conversations. So this is one of the ideas we put forth. Ghana and other countries have adopted a process where they have put a small task on certain commodities, and that goes towards education. Should we be looking at putting a small tax towards alcohol or cigarettes or water that goes to an educational fund? So these are the kind of conversations we have started having. Looking at, I just traveled the region. I was in Ghana. I went to Ghana. I went to Kigali. I was in Rwanda. We went to Zimbabwe. We went to South Africa. Just looking at what models they are using to finance education. And some of these ideas, I mean, if you go to Ghana now, everything you buy, you eat in a restaurant, there's a VAT for education. So government alone will never be able to fund education. Let's all be clear about that. But what are new ways we can start? We are planning on having a donor conference next year in the US. I'm coming to the US in June, and to start working on the process. We want to start. How do Liberians in the diaspora be a part of mobilizing resources to help in education in a very transparent and effective way? Because one of the things people are afraid of is share our money down there, people will steal it or people will eat it. So all of these things we need to, but the truth is our government alone cannot fund this plan or the plan to change the Liberian education sector. We all have to find alternative financing mechanisms and ways to mobilize resources if we are to make the kind of impact that we want to make.
And Mr. Minister, you know, I mean, I agree with you when you say that the government coffers are small and that we need donors. But ultimately, the goal is, as the years go by, the donations by the donors will decrease. And we have to take a greater share, because whoever pays the drummer determines how the drum is going to go. Now, if as you say, there are people from Iceland and other places who want to put in money in the educational sector, and they come, you know, the government has to show that not only does it have the political will to overhaul this system, that it's able to do something about the dismal system as it is. Now, when you are speaking, I mean, today I did go through the budget, and of course, like you said, you know, it's a sensitive subject. We're not going to, put anybody, but in the sector plan, it says most children with disabilities, right, are not enrolled in school. They talk about how in this equitable educational system will bring everybody in. Now, you're talking about models of disability, you know, how the people who have disability, the students will be brought in. Yet, looking at the budget, if you look at the subsidies the government gives to the Liberia School of the Blind, in 2022, they gave 50,000, right? The projection for 2023 is 35,000, which is now. And then 2024, 28. So it's going down, so it's going down. And if you look at staff training, early childhood staff training, local staff, 2022 was 37,000. 2023 projected 19,000. And then 2024, it goes up. So it goes up and down. You talk about, and this is the last one I would just, and looking at it, you talk about the fact that we don't have a lot of technical, public technical training. I think it was even that some of the counties don't even have technical school, vocational schools. And so they grant for the Liberia Opportunity Industrial Center. In 2022, it was 30,000. 2023, it was 24. 2024 is projected to be 19,000. So if I am a donor and I come to Liberia and I said, okay, I'm going to give money, and I look at the fact that electricity allocation is 59,000 or was 59,000 in 2022. But the International Youth Day, just the festivities, is 50,000. I'm going to start thinking, but this country has their priorities all wrong. You are telling me that on National Youth Day, they're going to get 50,000, but electricity that is needed in a school is 59. My question is, how does all of you at the Ministry of Education, how do you all inform the budget with these legislatures to say, look, this is what we need to be able to function as a viable entity in the country?
Thank you for the question, Jackie. And again, as you see the document that we put forth, the education sector plan, um, it's as honest as possible. We didn't create a document that makes the government look good or makes it look bad. We did a document that is honest to its core. We didn't hide the challenges. We didn't sugarcoat anything. We put a picture out there that is realistic. Our job again is to continue to engage all sectors of government. There are two branches of government that are involved with budgetary. The executive and the legislative branch. We continue to work with them. In the last few years, we've seen small progress. I won't sit here and say, look, we're getting everything we need. I won't, and that's not the case. Hopefully,
Mr. Minister,
I mean, in a perfect world, I've always said.
No, excuse me, you
Go
just
ahead.
said something. How is that? It's like what the question Jackie asks is are you actually putting across what you need? And is it being funded maybe 10%, 20%? You know, I just want to have an idea about that gap, about what you need and what actually you get.
There's a big gap in what we need and what we get. Again, we formulate our budgets and we submit them to the finance ministry, who puts the budget together and give it to the national legislature. What we put in a budget, obviously you won't get everything. Education can ask for 200 million. Ministry of Health can ask for 200 million. Every ministry can make their case for 200 plus million dollars. Now, the national envelope is so small, you have to then apportion it little by little. That's what I said earlier on. And everything that Jackie said just now, she's dead on. That's why I said later on, we need to find new sources of income for education. We who've been in the sector right now, and I'm not, I shouldn't sound, I don't want to sound like I'm bragging, but the team that you have at the Ministry of Education are competent people. These are true educators. Professor Sodi, you know him, 40 plus years, he's been in education. We don't lack competence at the ministry. We lack resources. And no matter how competent you are, the fact is you will not be able to do the job the way, even if we ask Jackie to come and serve in my position right now, in 2 months, she will start feeling the same thing. But I will say the political will is there. The financial capability is not. President Weah has demonstrated the political will for education to improve. This is one of the first year of this man's presidency, when things were crazy, inflation was off the roof, all kinds of things was happening. This president decided to make university education free so that Liberian children can go to school. Right now, we pay for all WAEC fees. Parents don't have to pay anything for WAEC. The children go and write their 12th grade exam, so that a brilliant child will not lose out on furthering their education because they cannot find WAEC fees. The political will is there. I can guarantee you that. The physical space is not. And that is our problem. We don't have the money. If we had the money and we were not investing in education, then we say, okay, you know what? The government don't prioritize education. When you have a 600 to 700 million budget and every sector in the country is in dire need, it is difficult. The question that I wanted to bring Jackie back to was, yes, donor funding will dry out. That is why it's on us to ensure that we Liberians continue to support education. And what other countries have done, as I said to you earlier on, was take, let's say, water. If we say we put 50 cents on every water that a Liberian buy, it goes to education, that's continuous supporting our sector. That's continuously through taxation, small taxation. Right now, we're doing it for roads. Madam Salif put in the Liberian Road Fund, the road fund.
Okay.
Every gallon of petroleum you buy in Liberia, there's a percentage that goes to the road fund that is used to build roads. We've continued with that. Should we now look at doing something similar for health and education? These are the kind of conversations we're having. I don't mind paying 1 cent or 2 cents if I go buy water and I know that it goes to education. Because the fact of the matter is the national budget, the national envelope is just too small. $1 billion in 5 years means that you must invest around 200 million in education to bring it to an appreciable level that all of us can say, look, yes, we are there. Nationally, it cannot happen. We need to find other sources. That is why we've started this dialogue. We were in Nimba, we came from Nimba. I think I text you. I came from Nimba last night. We had the JESR, the Joint Education Sector Review, and we had stakeholders from all across the country there. All across the world came. And for the last 7 days, we've been discussing how do we find alternative methods to finance education and close the gaps that government cannot meet or our international donors cannot meet. So the resolutions will be coming out next week. I will share a copy with you guys so that you know exactly what was discussed, agreed on, and how we intend to implement it going forward.
Thank you. And let me just, we see the envelope is small, and Jackie talked about the priorities, right? Because I was looking at, I have a friend there at the MCSS where internet alone, so the internet that, I think it was like 3,000. Then you compare that to other ministries, just stationary, but that's another point. We don't want to get to the political side of it. So priority is not just the smaller envelope, but how these things are prioritized. And we can see that clearly in the budget. Talking about the diaspora, funding sources, we have had a discussion before about how people in the diaspora can help. And we have had people on this show. We have Focus on Liberia has our education analyst who on his own goes to Liberia every year to teach math free. And there are so many professionals. We have tried to engage the ministry to say people are here that can volunteer. But besides that, nothing else. So I don't know if you are looking at these foreign donors alone, or you are also looking at the diaspora. You are looking at us. I mean, I think we can afford to say, well, for every money we send through Western Union, we can add 20 cents that can go something, right? What are you doing to engage the diaspora, to engage us? You were here, and we all sang this song when you were here. So what are you doing about that to be able to engage us here so that we can be able to help?
When I was in the States, the last time, not the last time, but I remember I came to the States in 2021, and I did a lot of town hall meetings. I went to Maryland, I went to North Carolina, I met Liberian groups all across. There are programs we've developed that diaspora Liberians can get engaged with. Let me give you an example of one of the programs we've done. There are 3 groups out of Atlanta now that are heavily involved with that program. It's called Adapt School. So let's say your school that you went to in Sano. Yeah. Just as you can adapt a child, you can adapt your school. And you adapt that school, you work with the ministry, you do the paperwork, you can assist your school. It's almost like you are become an adopted parent of the school, and you can assist the school whilst government still doing supervision of the school. There's a female group from Atlanta, 4 women that have adopted over 40 schools. They are working with it. There are several programs we are developing. You say you've been engaging the ministry, maybe you've been talking to the wrong person. I come to the States at least 3 times a year. I'm probably one of the most easiest person to access. I can work with any and everybody. Like I said, those of us who grew up in the States, went to school, and the minister is a title. That title is just a title. We as professional educators that are passionate about education can work together to bring change. Even if we don't win election, I'm not going to leave the education sector. I might not be in government. I'm still going to go back and run my university. I'm still going to be looking for ways to find resources to help whoever is president 6 months from now. My commitment to Liberia is beyond sitting in government. I will always help. And working with some of you who are interested in helping, let's hear from you. Let's find a way. We want ideas. If we had all the ideas, we wouldn't be calling for dialogues. We want to hear some of your ideas. The educators that are in the States, I met a lady from Michigan State. She's been out of Liberia all 40 years. And we had a very good conversation. Accidentally, we met on a plane. I was going to Rwanda, and she was going, and we boarded the flight from Ghana, Liberian lady. And we had good conversations. Let's start having these dialogues so that together we can find solutions and say, look, yeah, government, you're doing your part, but we as citizens, because you are in America right now, I can guarantee you and Jackie, you're paying somebody's school fee in Liberia. Might not be your own child, but you are somewhere assisting some kid in this country to go to school. So we are all stakeholders, and we just need to find a way to work collaboratively.
And that's the point, right? Because there are, even besides individuals, there are other groups that are already working. There's one who was building, he passed away while he was building a school in Riverside, and he wanted mention. I forgot the name. And he was trying to do that. There are other Liberian groups building libraries. And Jackie, your other friend who goes back to train. So, but how do you work with these people? Individual types. With my family and I, we've been supporting our school in our town for ever so long, but still there are so many bottlenecks. So how does government come in to assist groups and individuals that are already working in the educational sector to enhance their work?
I think that
one of the things that we...
Sorry.
Go ahead, Jackie.
The danger is not to remove one donor for another donor. That is not what we are looking for. What we're looking for is an educational system that can stand on its own. So that means that people in the diaspora, instead of doing this ad hoc, I'm helping this school, perhaps the Ministry of Education can have, like other places, a diaspora unit at the ministry. And then you have these things. These are the things that we need. Because if somebody comes with money and they say, oh, yes, go help that school, you don't know what kind of help they're giving. But if you say, these are our rules and regulation, I see a lot of people going to Liberia. I'm going to help this school. As soon as they give a pencil, the little child is on the Facebook. If they give one copybook, the child is on the Facebook. They become a philanthropist. That is not what we want. What we want is aid with dignity. So it goes through the educational system. What you say is, when I go to Zambia or I go to Ghana, I don't go to school and say, oh, let me help, let me give one pencil. I go to the University of Zambia, I go to the University of Ghana as a representative of my university and say, we agreed on these terms. So I think that the Ministry of Education in Liberia must ask itself, what is it that we want? Because even in this document, they're saying that with the higher education, the free education, it says here, here's a line. There are fears that the system is not adequately prepared to accommodate this increased intake. It means the amount of people now who are rushing because education is free. So so there must be an order to this madness. So the minister Da-thong can say, look, here is what we need. Here is what we need. Monserrato is already very well served. We need people in Bong, in Maryland, in these places. Now, when you come, your duty is to go to the ministry, meet with this person who will say, oh, Jackie, welcome. I see that you're going to direct your efforts. Maybe you can direct it here. So we need guidance. Not everybody going to Liberia, helter-skelter. the Ministry of Education must be the one that will be able to say, okay, this is what's going to happen. Because we don't want 20 years from now to have another educational sector plan, and our people say, oh, yes, just come and help us. We want to be weaned from aid. And by weaning is to help the ministry help itself. It's not to say, oh, I'm going to do this little thing and I'm going to put my name on it or no, it's to say, I strengthen the Ministry of Education through this. I mean, like I said, I've traveled a lot in Africa, and I would never dare go and say, oh, I'm helping this school if I don't go to the representative of that school and say, what is it that we signed that we're going to help. So I think a minister, that with the diaspora, I think also you guys should put together like a wish list, and have
We have
order,
it.
just how you are licensing teachers now. License us when we come to say, okay, this is our checklist, this is what we want, instead of having our country like whosoever may come and bring things that within a year is non-functional. So I think that is what should happen, that it's not so much aid as an enabling environment being created by the diaspora in merger with the Ministry of Education.
Thank you, Jackie. I think you probably spoke for us. That's part of our frustration, and now we are limited. We are trying to find remedies to these things. Part of our frustration is, let me give you an example. We've written policies, we've set standards. Say, look, if you want to build a school in Liberia, it should look like this.
Yes.
Very often, we go in communities and you see a school being erected. Nobody has contacted the ministry. The kinds of things you talk about. People come from overseas, and again, some of them are honest, good people. But other people come with different motives. You see somebody coming and giving books to this school, but 1 year later, that person will run for senator. Some of their motives are ulterior. It's they hide behind I'm aiding this school or I'm doing that, and all of a sudden you're running for representative or you want to run for president. We've put it's true, and
Yes.
I always said I speak from the perspective of I was once coming home and visiting like everybody else. Now I'm living home, working, so I understand, how this works. I agree with you. One of the things the ministry have done is, if you come to Liberia now and you do not get, it's not, you don't have to run a school, but if you want to do anything in education now, you have to get an education sectorial clearance from the ministry. If you don't get the sectorial clearance and we see you doing working education, we will find you and we will stop you. That way now, many of these organizations are coming. Now we are even deriving lists of people that are doing things in Liberia that we never knew before. They will just come, go to the county where they're from, and work there. But now, if you don't have a sectorial clearance, you cannot work in the sector. You can't do anything in the sector. So many of them now are legalizing the entities that they are working through to come and do things. We did the sector plan, but we also did a sector gap. There are gaps in the sector. We meet with donors, we meet with Liberians, anybody that come and say, look, these are the areas that we have gaps in. This is where we need help. Because if everybody, Jackie, bring the money, if this group can say, we want to do girls' education, this group say, I want to put my money in early childhood, then we will never fix the problem. We will be jumping from here to there.
Yeah.
We're driving slowly to the Rwandan model, where the Rwandans say, look, this is where we need help. You can either help us in these areas or thank you. But you won't come and create your own areas that you want to help when we have more needs in these areas. But that's a big problem we face with recently. We get calls from the community. There is somebody came, and I won't even call it a school. If I call it a school, I will be dignifying it. But just put something up and started running classes. I drove there personally, met this individual from Philadelphia, said, look, do you have a sectoral clearance? No. I need no clearance to do work in my own country. No, nobody say you need clearance. That's your own country. But let's follow process. Everywhere we go outside of Liberia, we follow process. Let's do the same. But he was dismissive. Now, yeah, he's running for representative. So, yes, I agree with you. There is not one word that you said, Jackie, that I disagree with. Some of it's our frustration as well. Those of us who have pure intentions of making the system better, we know that. I like the idea. No one have ever suggested what you just suggested. I think we should talk about it more. If we win the election, I'll guarantee you that, yes, maybe we do need a diaspora unit at the Ministry of Education. We have an education delivery unit there. The EDU is in the ministry. Under the education delivery unit, we can then have a division that deals with diaspora, with those from the diaspora. We never thought about it. It's a great idea from you. I think we can expand on it and we can do something like that.
Yeah, I'll send you my bill.
No problem.
Mr. Minister,
no problem.
And if I may, I mean, when I go to Ghana, I take what we want to accomplish in Ghana, and I meet the alumni. I meet the University of Ghana officials, and I say, "This is what my university wants. You have agreed to it. How can we carry it out?" You know, you don't just go and say, "Okay, now that you signed the agreement, let me do whatever I want." So I think, Mr. Minister, that would be a good starting point for us who would like to come and give back. You know, not run for any elected office. No, not run for any elected office, but who would like to give back. Yes.
And Jackie, here is the thing. They say when you get in the town, you listen to the songs the children are singing. That tells you what's going on. So we leave from here, and I see this person is a senator or representative or something, and they have a university. This other government official has a college. So it's like politics and education are now connected. So what stops me, who also want a job, from doing the same thing, right? So how is the ministry dealing with that issue with people inside Liberia? I know you're talking about those who are coming there, right? But you see someone who is in government, who is running, you have a university, you have a college, you have a high school, you have this, you have that, most of the time from government money. So now if you have someone, so when people come from the United States, they want to replicate that same model, right?
Yeah, but
again, there's logic there, but I'll also say the history also matters. I'll use myself for an example. I ran a university here for 13 years before I entered government. Yeah. It was never government that made me open a university. Yes. I opened one in 2007. I think it's clearly established. Right. We also have the lack of expertise. When I say lack of expertise, not that we don't have Liberians that are brilliant educators, but many of the brilliant educators are not home. So we had the pool to select from in Liberia is very small. Some of us could easily say, look, we would never join government, but you don't join government and you know the right things to do, and then you can't help. Part of us that had already been educators or owned schools, it made it better because we brought experience to the table. I think you saw the same thing in the US. I think under Barack Obama, his Secretary of Education, was someone that owned many charter schools before going. You need experienced people that have ran schools, that understand school business, to actually do this work, because the work is critical. So there's no lie in the fact that there are people in government that have the businesses, but many of us have businesses way before. Take the health minister. She had her hospital 10 years before even going to government. So it is not government that made us do these things. We were already doing it, but we chose to join government. If we say that's a problem, but we sit on the sidelines, then we're not part of the solution. For me personally, and again, open secret, a deputy minister makes less than $4,000 US. We make around $3,500. I didn't take the job for the money. I pay my president. The president of Stars University makes more money. I pay him more than doing this job. So it was never for the salary, but it was for the opportunity to be able to help change and fix a system that badly need the skills that some of us have. Some things we acquire from outside, we brought it home. And I think, again, I don't like to use the word sacrifice because we are not sacrificing, it's our own country. We're doing it for ourselves.
Right.
But if some of us stay outside, then who fixed the system?
Right.
So these are some of the challenges that we have.
And I was not really talking to those who already have schools before going. I'm talking about people that are in government and they are building colleges and universities. So people living from here to think that's a very sure way to get to power, right?
Yes, you're right. You're right.
All right.
But we'll fix the system. I'm optimistic.
Yeah, and we are too. If you want to join the conversation quickly, we promised the minister we're going to keep him for 1 hour, 30 minutes. So the number is on the screen, 605-313-6004. The code is 791-403#. You can call that number and join the conversation. Jackie, you can go ahead. Let me set up the call. We have people already in the wings waiting.
Oh no, we can do the I mean we can wait for it. I wasn't going to ask a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh no, I was just thinking that because it talked a lot about PTA as well, that the PTA should get involved with the school and things like that. And I was wondering, do you have like a very energetic, viable PTA? Because I see that in the budget they don't have any allocation now for provision of classroom furniture for public schools. So I was thinking that maybe the PTA, they have the allocation is 0. So I was thinking that maybe the PTA could get together and pay for like I mean, people need to do something. Education is not free. I mean, yeah, you can say the tuition is free, but education is not free. We used to put chairs on our head at LU and walk around from class to class. So do you see a viable PTA where they can get together, maybe build chairs and tables for the classrooms and things like that? How do you see the PTA in Liberia?
We want the PTA to be viable. We've been pushing them. It has not been that way. It's segmented. Some areas they are more viable than others. It is something that we've been pushing for. Under goal number 3, goal number 3 is strengthening governance and management of our education sector. And under goal number 3, there are 3 fundamental things. I might not go in the exact order that it is because I don't have it in front of me, but there are 3 fundamental things. One is MAE, the monitoring of the system. And under MAE, the government has a structure to monitor the system where you have ministers, you have county education officers, DEOs, and blah, blah, blah. What we now want to do is to add new stakeholders in the MAE process. The PTA is one of those stakeholders. The PTA can help us monitor the schools. We want to add community leadership. Our schools find themselves in communities. There are community leaderships in communities that can help us monitor the schools. So we've been meeting with the PTA. They are about to have the national convention to elect a new leadership. We want the PTA to be very viable because we believe the PTA can help us accomplish so much in the school system, monitor the system, get some of these extra things. The PTA can be a strong partnership, we believe, when it comes to making our schools better.
Yeah.
Thank you. Let me bring in some of our callers quickly before. The first caller here is Franklin Wheeler.
Good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Go ahead, please.
Yes.
Okay. Mr. Minister, good evening, sir. I keenly listen to you, and you seem to be well abreast with what you are doing. I sympathize and empathize with you because I see you do not have all the support that you need, and you are a true educator. Now, I got 2 questions for you. One, have you thought? So I saw Jackie talking about the budget and things. Have you thought about special education. I work in special education. Have you made some accommodation for special education, the needs of special education? Because all along I have not heard Liberia having special education programs in the schools, and I've never heard you talk about it over the hour, 30 minutes. And two, do you have an intention, since in fact you, the engineer at the Ministry of Education, because you said the minister proper is just a political head, have you thought about having an educational attaché, one especially at the embassy here, where he can raise and galvanize support not only from alumni or Liberians from here, but within the larger Liberian community? Thank you so much, and I appreciate you.
Thank you, Franklin. Mr. Minister, I will jot down the questions and then we'll take a few more callers, if you don't mind.
No, that's fine. I'm also writing it down.
All right. Let's get the next caller there. That's Leo Napulu Johnson. Leo, you're live.
Thank you, Mr. Jai, and thank you, Minister Da-thong, as well, to Sayegh as well. I just had a few concerns I wanted to highlight, and maybe the minister can address himself to it. The first thing is, I get a bit concerned when I hear the minister saying we need to bring in people who've run schools before to work at a ministerial level. I don't necessarily think so. To be a minister or deputy minister, in my opinion, you need a good public administrator and good public manager, not someone who necessarily may have worked run a school. Let me put it that way. Running a school does not equate to just being the manager for a public system. My next concern with the minister is that I heard him talk about a lot of good things the ministry has been doing. My concern is I haven't heard of the system level innovations and processes that are in place that will allow individuals to fit within the system. I've heard of different projects that are happening, but what is happening at a transformational system level overall that facilitates investment into one big pool rather than multiple projects running around and everybody running towards their own. I will give you an example. There is a limited amount of money in the diaspora to be raised for countries like Liberian education, and I've spearheaded raising over $2 million individually outside of the ministry. So what is the ministry doing? Where is the innovation? To not be complaining about the government budget every day, but going outside of the government's budget and answering the question about corruption. There's a perceived issue with corruption with any government entity in Liberia. How can the ministry create other conduits through which it can facilitate investment without necessarily being the one controlling the dollars and cents, but can control the outcomes and not necessarily the dollar and cents? And my last issue for the minister to really address himself to will be the issue of identifying Liberians who are already doing monumental system-level, national-scale projects in Liberia. I can say this. From when Minister Otello Gonga was education minister, we've engaged. We're building a learning center. We're looking at establishing the opportunity with the ministry for a national library system in Liberia over 8 years with a multi-million-dollar partner to come in. The problem has been the ministry cannot always expect everybody to go to it, especially when it becomes aware. And I've met with Telly D and a lot of people in the ministry. How are you motivating those people already coming in and helping to coordinate and facilitate their efforts within what the ministry intends to do without necessarily having to control the cents and dollars, but can control the outcomes because you are the experts and you are government?
Thank you, Mr. Johnson. Let me take Elvis Morris. Elvis, you're live.
Thank you, Mr. Jai.
And let's be brief now. The minister got to go to bed.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Jai. Thank you to the minister there. Quickly, I want to ask him about the conflict of interest. Mm-hmm. You know, I don't know if our country have even putting your, divesting or putting your interest in your school into a blind trust. Having a school that you've been running, I've heard about the school. It's quite a successful school. Isn't there a conflict of interest, to have a school open while you're deputy minister of education? And then also, I would like him to, if he doesn't mind, to break down the budget, the educational budget for us in terms of at least the top 3 places that they spend most of the money. Is it on teacher salary? Is it on constructing or renovating the school system? What do they really spend the money on that the government allowed to the education ministry? Thank you so much. I'll leave that.
Thank you. And it's salary. The next caller here, Williams. Your name and where you calling from?
My name is Imyang Williams, and I'm calling from North Carolina.
Thank you for calling.
I have two questions.
Sure.
Thanks to the minister and to you, Dennis and Jackie. I have two questions for the minister. This is the first one. Many of the government officials operate their private schools. Does the Ministry of Education subsidize those schools? And the second one is, what is the criteria for operating or opening schools in Liberia?
Thank you.
Can I address this?
Ian, I just figured that out as Ian.
Can I address this?
It must be Jackie that told you.
No, I saw your name. All right, let's get the last caller, Mr. Minister, and then you can take all of them. Mr. Adman Salif, you're live. Quickly.
Hello, Mr. Minister. Quickly, if the donors assisting in the education sector, where are the efforts concentrated? Like international development partners and donors, where are the efforts concentrated? And secondly, the Bridges School, I think there was a private public partnership kind of intervention in the education system. Maybe I missed that. Just joined the call not too long ago. Will you talk about those two pieces too? How are you coordinating donor activities? Where are they? What are they doing in our education sector? Thank you.
And then the bridge system, yeah, that bridge thing. Mr. Minister, if you want me to summarize, or you can go ahead.
No,
That is
I
my
have them.
whole thesis there. That bridge thing is my whole thesis, so you just leave it right now.
Okay. So I have all the questions, and I would love to come back on the show, make multiple. We can talk education forever. Some of the things that are being asked here are not things I can talk about in a few minutes. But just to some of the issues that was brought up here, let me make it clear for those who don't understand. So, for example, someone talk about conflict of interest. There's no conflict of interest in my job because I own a university. The Ministry of Education caters only for kindergarten to K-12. Decisions are made don't affect universities. All university falls on the Commission of Higher Education, which is a different entity. The Commission of Higher Education controls universities. Nothing that I do personally, none of my decisions affects my university because we are focused on kindergarten to 12th grade. So even me, when there are issues, we have to work through the commission to solve them. So if I was working at the Commission of Higher Education, that would be a direct conflict.
I think the minister has some K through 12 school. Is that correct? The minister.
I will. Yes, I mean it's not a secret, but Minister Soni also owned his school long before becoming minister.
Okay.
We do not. There is no school owned by any of the public officials at the Ministry of Education right now that is subsidized by government. Then you guys can do your investigation. No school. None of the ministers there have their school subsidized by government. So let's just make sure that is clear. To the other gentleman I called, my insinuation was not that you have to run a school to be a minister. I was insinuating that you need public officials that have experience at several levels to be a minister or to be able to work at this level. All of us know the education sector is a complex sector. It's a sector right now that is the largest sector in Liberia. We have 22,000 employees,
right?
22,000 across. So it is in everybody's benefit to have qualified experience and competence there. And obviously, we are not the only qualified experience and competence. There are many. Jackie is sitting there, can do this job easily as well as others. So that wasn't my insinuation that you should run a school to be here. I also heard about alternative special ed. We have just completed the policy. We did a policy on special education that has been endorsed now by UNESCO. We never had one before. We've completed the girls' education policy and the special education policy. There are many students in Liberia that have special needs, and those students have to be catered for. Um, we are working now on a grant that will be focused primarily on special ed students. As we progress, again, I will make sure this is not my final appearance. I think coming and talking about education every now and then, just keeping you guys updated on where we are is important for the system. Uh, he asked about, do we have a tool so that people don't just come and do different things in the sector? That's what the ESP is. The ESP is that tool that has everything that needs to be done. If you are interested in working in the Liberian education sector, and Jackie and the team has a copy of the ESP, we can send you one.
200 pages.
Yeah, exactly. So if you're interested, this is the document that should guide anybody who wants to do work in the Liberian education sector. We don't want scattered approach. We don't want disjointed approach. That's why we went ahead and thank you. That's it, Jackie. And if you're interested, please, again, for some people who say they've contacted the ministry and they have not gotten cooperation, let me say, yeah, I apologize. We are sometimes overwhelmed, critically busy, but it is not intentional. I know I particularly it's not intentional. The name that he mentioned is my chief of staff, Talibi. Maybe it was an attempt for us to meet or talk. If it didn't happen, I will be in the US. If you share your contacts, when I get there, I will contact you. When you are back in Liberia, I will leave my contact. And again, if that was the case, our apologies, but none of us, you don't need an appointment to visit my office. We are not bigger than anybody because we carry a title in front of our name. We believe that to serve is to be available to all of. I just said tonight that one of the best ideas that I've learned came from Jackie. Tomorrow I'm going to meet with the minister and we start talking about having a diaspora unit. Tomorrow morning, every Monday morning, we have our SMTs. The senior management team meets from 10 to 4 o'clock and we go over everything. So this is something I will bring to the SMT tomorrow. Let me close by saying, again, thank you for bringing me on. The issues with our education sector there are a lot. We will not solve all our education issues in 1 decade or even with 6 years in office. But we should strive at continuously making progress incrementally so that when we look back, a decade from now, we should all be able to say we've made changes and we've made impact on our country. With that, I want to say thank you for hosting me. I will make myself available to update those of you in the diaspora anytime you want information or education. So thank you.
Thank you. Shirley was asking about where the donor funds concentrated and then the bridge system, but definitely I know your time is fast spent.
That's a whole show by itself. Yeah. We can do a whole show on that.
Okay, but thank you. I was just shocked because this is what I always thought, right? That the education ministry is the largest. I have some numbers here. On the 2022, and I'm not starting a new show, trust me. 2022 national budget, presidential affairs ministry 20 million, education ministry 92 million, agriculture 7 million, finance ministry a whopping 152 million. I'm like, who's at the finance ministry? But that's a whole show by itself.
So that education ministry, that 92 million is not the education ministry, it's the entire sector.
Yeah.
So that's what goes to University of Liberia, all the public universities. So that's the entire sector, MCSS, everybody, not just the ministry.
So just imagine 92 million compared to presidential affairs 20 million, and finance 152 million. Like, who in these places? Because we when we were growing up, the first ministry we knew as education, so we know it's massive. So I mean, I don't want to feel sorry for you, but I don't know how you'll do it.
Don't.
Yeah, and I want to thank you, Minister, for coming by. Definitely, I will stop by when I'm there. I think I will be in Ghana next, but I will stop by. And you know, the diasporic unit, as Leo said, that maybe you guys don't have funds, but it will be run by a volunteer. There are a lot of people who have retired and they don't have anything to do, and they would really like to donate their time. You know, so I think that you should have one and ask people who are willing to give up their time. You know, it could even be, it doesn't have to be open continuously, but I think that even if there's a diasporic unit in each ministry that's relevant ministry, I think that will help. But thank you so much for coming on. We know it's very late, and we ask you to please join us again, because bridge is another whole thing, and then they've got the other whole thing, and then we would like to talk about gender mainstreaming, right, and girls' education. So thank you so much. We are very honored to have you as our
testing and evaluation. That's another whole area we want to talk about.
Thank you.
Yeah, but thank you so much. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yes.
On that note, we want to thank our viewers for watching. We never close a broadcast without playing our song that says, "We are all Liberians." Whether, you know, whatever area you come from, we are all Liberians. Let's do everything to support the educational system, that sector in Liberia, because it's failing us. If the education is not right, most of the things not going to be right, because it's all about education. Thank you, Jackie.
Yeah, please hurry up. The superintendent for Sayegh coming.
Right.
Good night,
even if I can get the superintendent and be principal of Sayegh High School, I'm fine.
Good night, Dennis.
Good night. God bless you.
Okay, bye-bye.
We are Liberian.